Alright, 14. The Ultimate Influence Master System. Your Master System. Awaken the Giant Within, Anthony Robbins. Chapter 14, Ultimate Influence, Your Master System. Elementary, my dear Watson, with the apologies to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. One of the things I love most about what I do is the opportunity to unravel the mystery of human behavior, thereby to offer solutions that may be truly make the difference in quality of people's lives. I'm fascinated to probe people to surface to find out why behind the person's behavior, to discover their core beliefs, metaphors, questions, references, and values, because my forte is able to produce immediate and measurable results out of necessity. I learn how to quickly locate key leverage points to facilitate change. Every day I get to live the role of Sherlock Holmes, slewing minute details to piece together a jigsaw puzzle, each person's unique experience. I guess you could say that I'm a very private detective of the telltale clues of human behavior, just as blatant as a smoking gun. Sometimes the clues are a little more subtle, and it takes further investigation to uncover them. However, the diverse human behavior is one thing that has allowed me to do what I do so successfully. Is ultimately all comes down to certain patterns made of specific key elements. If I had a grasp on the organizing principle, they were empowered not only to influence people with a positive change, but also understand what they do and why they do and what they do. Understand the mastery system directs all human behavior is as much as the science as your chemistry and physics, governed by predictable laws and patterns of action and reaction. You can think of your own mastery system. 5 components determine how they evaluate everything that happens in your life. It's kind of a periodic table, detailing the elements of human behavior, just as the physical matter breaks down with the same basic units. So does the process of human behavior to one who knows what to look for. It's a combination of structure, how we use these elements to make these unique, each of us unique. Some mixtures volatilate and produce explosive results. However, the combination neutralize, some catalyze, and some paralyze. Bombardment, as we were, countless things that happen to us every day. Most of us don't even realize that personal philosophy, much less than the power to direct our evaluations of what things mean to us. Second section of this book is dedicated to assisting in directing control of the master system of evaluation. The force of the controls of the way you feel and what you do every moment of your life. Understanding the master system offers to allow the immediate get of the essence of the person, whether it's a spouse, child, the boss, business partner, even the people you meet every day. Wouldn't be the ones of the greatest gift you could ever receive to be able to know what driving all of the people who are most important to you, including yourself. Wouldn't it be great to get beyond up the set and challenge with someone, understand that they're behaving is this way and what they want? And then, without judgment, to be able to immediately reconnect with who they really are. With children, usually remember the crankiness indicates a near needed for a nap, rather a sour disposition of marriage. Especially important to them, able to see through day-to-day stress so that they can support each other and nurture the bond brought together in the first place. If the spouse with the feeling pressure of work is ventilating his or her frustration, it doesn't mean that your marriage is over, but it's a sign of the more attentive focus on supporting the person you love. After all, the wouldn't judge the stock market based solely on the day when the Dow Jones average plunged 20 points, but by the same token, you can't judge a person's character by one isolated incident. People do not have not their beliefs. Key understanding people to understand the master system, and you can appreciate their individual systematic way of the reasoning. We all have the system and procedure that we go through in order to determine that means to us and what do need to about them in a virtual any situation in life. You and I need to remember that the different things are important to different people. They evaluate happening differently based on their perspective of conditioning. Imagine playing tennis or hitting the poor server from your perspective. You blew it for your opponent's perspective. It was a great shot for him. For the line's perspective, the serve was neither good nor bad. It was simply in or out. What often happens after hitting a poor shot, people start generalizing more often than not in a disempowering way. What is a table serve? What is a terrible serve that becomes, I couldn't serve it today to save my life. The next few serves are likely to be equally underwhelming than the training of the generalization picked up the speed moving that I couldn't serve today to save my life. I've never did have that great of a serve. I'm really not such a hot tennis player. Too, I never seen able to master anything Two, I'm a horrible person. I look ludicrous here if spelled out with lurid detail. But isn't the way that happens in so many areas of our lives it will fail to take control of the evaluation process. It'll literally run wild and sweep us with a spiraling pattern of self-reincrimination. Superior elevate evaluations criteria superior lives. And while most of the successful people in the culture of common denominator knows without fail whether they make super evaluations as anyone with the mastering of anything in the business, public, law, arts, relation, physical health, and spirituality was brought to them with the personal pinnacle who had prosecuting attorney general Jerry Spence, and with almost every case he has taken for the last 15 years. Why doesn't Bill Cosby seem to delight with the audience virtually every time he takes the stage? What makes Andrew Lloyd Webber music so haunting perfectly? It also comes down to these people making super evaluations of areas of expertise, and Spence has honed a superior understanding of the influence of human emotion and deception. Cosby has spent with developing key references, belief, and the rules about how to use anything in the environment as a material to make people laugh. Weber's masters melody and orchestration, arrangement, and other the elements enable him to write the music that touches off at the deepest level. Consider Wayne Gretzky over the Los Angeles Kings. He scored more points than anyone in the history of the National Hockey League. What makes him so powerful is because he was the biggest and strongest and fastest player in the league. By his own admission, the answer for all three of these questions is no, yet he is consistently number one scorer in the league. When he asks that makes them do so effectively, his response, while most players skate to where the puck is, he tends to skate to where the puck is going. At the moment, he is able to anticipate, evaluate the velocity of the puck, the directions, present stage, strategies, physical momentum of the players around him, allows him to place himself in the optimum position of scoring. One top money managers in the world, Sir John Templeton, Dean of International Investigating, who tracked the record of the last 50 years in unraveled. A sum of $10,000 invested in Templeton Growth Fund in the interception in 1954 would be worth $2.2 million today. In order to have him personally work with you on your portfolio, you must invest a minimum of $10 million cash. Typica, his top client, entrusted him with over $11 billion to invest. He was made with the Templeton, one of the greatest investment advisors of all time. When I asked him this question, he did not hesitate a moment, and he said, maybe my ability to evaluate the true value of the investment he has been able to, despite the vagaries of trends and short-term market fluctuations. Alright, wealth is a result of effective evaluation. I'm at the top of the investment advisor with the one who I've studied with a model for the past year, including with the Peter Lynch, with the Robert Preckert, and Warren Buffett. To help with the financial evaluation, Buffett employed the powerful metaphor he learned with his friend and a mentor, Ben Graham, and a metaphor for looking at the market fluctuation. Just imagine the coming from the remarkable accommodation fellow named Mr. Market, who is your partner in the private business. Mr. Market quotations are anything but stable. Why? Well, for said to say reasons with a poor fellow with incurable emotional problems. At times, the fellow euphorically, and we can see only the favorable factors affecting him in the business. When he is in that mode, he names a very high buy-sell price, and because of fears that you'll snap out of his interest and rob him with imminent gains. At others, he's depressed and he can see nothing but trouble ahead for both business and the world. On those occasions, he'll name a very low price since he's terrified with you will unload your interest on him. But like Cinderella at the button ball, he must heed one warning or everything will turn to pumpkins and mice. Mr. Market is there to serve you, not to guide you. It is a pocketbook, not to wisdom, and that you will find useful. If he shows up someday in a particular foolish mode, you're free to ignore him or take advantage of him, but it was disastrous if you fall under the influence. Indeed, if you are certain with the understand can value business far better than Mr. Market, you don't belong in the game. Clearly, Buffett evaluates the investment decision quietly differently from those who extremely worried from the market crash of the euphoric when it soars. And because evaluated differently, he produces a different quality of the result with someone doing better than we are in an area of life, simply because they have better way of evaluating what things and what they should do about it. What we must never forget, the impact of the evaluation goes far beyond hockey or finances. How to evaluate what you're going to eat tonight may determine the length of the quality of your life. Poor evaluations of how to raise your kids create with the potential lifelong pain. Failure to understand someone else's evaluation procedure can destroy a beautiful and loving relationship. The goal then is able to evaluate everything in your life that consistently guides you to the making choice of the produce of the results you desire, the challenges, solve them. Do we take control? What ensemble symbols seems like a complex process to develop with a simplify with you can take with a helm of the beginning of steering with your own evaluation procedures, and therefore our destinies. Here is the brief of the overview of the 5 elements of evaluation, some of which I already know, and the rest of which we'll be covering on the following chapters. Below your final arrow pointed toward the twin targets. This is a diagram demonstrating how our master system of evaluation works. Let's review the 5 elements one time at a time, each of the diagram as you see below as we go. First element that affects all of the evaluation, mental, emotional state, even while you're making the evaluation of the times of your life. Somebody can say one thing to you and will make you cry, while other times same commitment makes you laugh. What is the difference? It may be simple to state in your fearful, vulnerable state, crunching footsteps outside in your window night, along with the creak of the door opening, feel with the meaning of something totally different, and with your state of excitement and positive anticipation. Whether the equipator under the sheets, the leap out, runs of the door, open arms of the result of the evaluation, make with the meaning of these sounds. One major key with making the superior evaluations, that is to make certain that they were making a decision what things mean, with what to do with a extremely resourceful state, with a mind of emotional rather than in survival mode. The second building block of our master system are the questions we ask. The question created the initial form of the evaluation remembered in the response. Anything that happens in your life, your brain evaluates it by asking what's happening. What does the situation mean? What does this mean? Pain or pleasure? What can I now avoid, reduce, eliminate pain, or gain some pleasure? What determines whether someone you date with evaluation deep effectively by the specific question you ask yourself with the skill approaching the person. If you ask yourself a question like, wouldn't it be great to get to know this person in your life, feel motivated and approach them? If I habitually ask the question, what if they reject me? What if they're offended by my approach them? What if I get hurt? Obviously, these questions will lead to the thorough such evaluation result of the passing opportunity to connect with someone you're truly interested in. What determines the the kind of food you'll put on the dinner plate depends on the question you ask. What you feel, look at the food. Consistently ask the question, what could I eat quickly would give me the immediate lift. The foods you may choose will tend to heavily process convenient foods, layman's term junk, and if instead you ask, what could I have now with nourish me, with more likely to pull the such of the food groups as fruit, juice, and vegetables and salads. The difference between having a Snicker bar on a regular basis and a glass of fresh squeezed juice is determined the quality of the physical body as resulted from the way you've evaluated habitual questions that play a major role in the process. Third element, effective evaluation hierarchy values you throughout the life of the lead value certain emotions more than others will want all feel good, i.e. personal pleasure, avoid pain, i.e. pain, but other inference experiences of the thought. Each of the unique coding system with the equal pain with the equal pressure with the confound with the guidance for the system with our values. For example, one person may have learned feeling pleasure from the idea of feeling scared, but someone else may have linked pain to the same idea. Because of the family obsession, security call with the never experience with a sense of freedom. Some people try to succeed, yet at some time to avoid rejection at all costs. You can see how the values conflict with the might cause for the person to feel frustrated or immobilized. Values select the shape of every decision you make of the life of the 2 types of value for the learning of the next chapter, emotional state of the pleasure while trying to move toward the values of the love, joy, compassion, excitement of the emotional states of pain that we're trying to avoid or move away from. Humiliation, frustration, depression, and anger. The dynamic created with these 2 targets are determined by the direction of your life. The fourth element makes up the mastery system is belief. The global beliefs gives a sense of the certainty and how to feel with expect with the others and yourself, with the life and the people, or reliefs of the belief of the way have about happening enough to feel with the values that have been met. For example, some of the people believe that I love them, never raise your voice. This rule is covered the person and value with the raised voice of evidence that there's no level of love in the relationship. This may have no basis in fact, but the rule to dominate with the evaluation, therefore, with the person's perception and experience with what is true without such limiting rules, my ideas. Like, if you're successful, then you may make millions of dollars. If you're a good parent, you'll never have a conflict with your children. or global belief determined if the expectation off the control of what we're even willing to evaluate in the first place. Give the force of the belief determines if the give of the ourself, the experience of the pain and pleasure for the core element of every evaluation will ever make. Fifth element of master system hodgepodge reference experience. You can access the giant file cabinets you call the cell, you call your brain. And if you're stored everything in your experience in your life, and then after the matter, everything you imagine, the reference form, the raw material that we either construct our belief or give it a decision in order to decide whether something means with us compared with something else. Something, for example, the situation, good or bad, with the tennis, for example, earlier in this chapter, is it good or bad compared to what is good compared to what your friends do or have. It's compared with the word situation we've ever heard of the unlimited reference of the making any of the decision reference you choose with the determined meaning they take from the experience, how to feel about it, with a certain extent of what you will do without doubt with the reference shape of the belief, the value. Can you see how that would make a difference? For example, if you grew up in an environment where you felt that you were consistently being taken advantage of over the growing up and feeling unconditionally loved, how might this color your beliefs and your values or the way you looked at the life of the people that are opportunity? And if an example of the learn is skydiving when you were 16 years old, you might develop a different value for the idea's venture than someone that had rejected every time they attempted with a new skill, concept, or idea. Master, often people that you have the more reference you do about the lead with the success or frustration in any given situation. Clearly, after 40 years of 40 years of investing, John Templeton had the more references to assist him in deciding what is an excellent investment in someone with them putting together their first deal. Additional reference for the potential match with regardless for their experience with the lack of their over the limited way of the organized the reference of the beliefs, rules that empower them, disempower them. Each day we have the opportunity to take the new reference that can help us for the bolster belief in the refined value of the new asking questions, access the state of the propel us into the direction we want to go and try to truly shape the destiny for the better. Men are wise in proportion not to their experience, but their capacity for experience. Several years ago, I began to hear of the incredible success of the man named Dwayne Chapman, and trickling down with the capturing felons who had eluded the law of the years, known that most of the dog he had become known as the top bounty hunter in the country. I was fascinated, wanted to meet him, and to discover the means that makes him effective. The dog is deeply a spiritual man whose goal is not only catch a felon, but also to help them make the change in life. Where did the desire come from? It came to his own pain. As a young man, Dog made poor evaluations, which about chose as friends out of the desire to belong to the group. He joined a motorcycle gang, the Devil's Disciples. One day, in the midst of the drug deal gone bad, a gang member shot and mortally wounded a man at the scene. Panic ensued, and the members immediately fled. Although Dog did not commit the murder in the state, there was no line with the drawn between them being an accessory to murder, there being the man that actually pulled the trigger. He ended up several years in hard time working on chain gang in the Texas prison system. Doing time gave him so much pain that reevaluated his entire philosophy of life, and he began to realize that his core belief of the values, rules that created his pain. He began to ask himself new questions of the focus on the prison experience references as being an effective choice that he made of previous life with the philosophy. This got him at the point where he believed that most of the change within his life was once for all. Within the year of the following, the relief of the Dog pursued with a number of colorful careers. Finally settled starting a private investigation business when he was brought before a judge for back child support payments. Payments have been unable to make while in prisons and financially unstable. The period following his relief, the judge offered Dog money-making opportunity in lieu of payment. He knew that it would never materialize. He just suggested the Dog track down a rapist who victimized many women in the Denver area. Judge suggested Dog use distinctions and he made it in his prison to assist him in figuring out what the criminal might be doing or where he might be hiding. Although law enforcement officials had tried unsuccessfully to find the rapist over a year, Dog delivered him within 3 days. To say the least, Judge was impressed. They started with a brilliant career, but today, more than 3,000 arrests later, Doug had one of the best records in the country, but not the best. He has averaged over 360 arrests a year, essentially one arrest a day. Was the key success certainly a critical factor evaluation he made with the Dog. Interviews with Corey, relative to or loved One's variety of ways of elicits information is needed to discover some of the belief of the value of the habitual rules of the man and woman he's pursuing. He understands that their life references enable him to think the same way he would and anticipate their moves, and with the uncanny precision he understands the master system resolve to speak for themselves. Two kinds of change. If you want, I want to change anything in our life, an inevitable one of the two things. Either we're feeling our behavior differently, we're learning to change the emotional feeling with the context. For example, if you fear with being rejected with an actor, I can help you with the condition yourself with no longer fearful. Or we can make it the second kind of change, the global change of the metaphor that might be there, that we want to change with the computer and processing data. I can change with the software using the when you hit the key, what shows up on the screen with the formulated differently, or really I wanted to make a change that will not affect only the type of the file. By multiple environments of the change of the computer's operating system, the change of the master system, the change of how you interact with a variety of circumstances, some of the type of the just condition of yourself will feel differently with the rejection, elimination, fearful behaviors. So you can adapt the new global belief of the say that I'm source of all of my emotions, nothing, no one can change how I feel except me, but I find myself the reaction, anything I can change it. At a moment, I truly adopt the belief of the not intellectual with emotion, where you feel that with the absolute certainty can you see with the would have eliminated not only fear or rejection, also with the feeling of the anger, frustration, and inadequacy. Suddenly become the master of the fate with a change with the value of the bank of the highest value with the contributing with the somebody rejected you. It wouldn't matter. You would still with the contributed to them with the constant contribution. You find yourself no longer being rejected by the people. You also find yourself permeated with the sense of the joy of the connection that you may never have with before with on other areas in your life that we change with the dark condition feelings toward smoking, getting you to you move with the health, the vitality, top of the values list. Once of them become the highest priority of life, with the smoking behavior that disappear, but more importantly, it can be replaced with other behaviors that will support the new value with a healthy vitality, eating differently, with the breathing differently, with its own, with the top of the changes that are available, valuable. Focus section book has to create with a global change with a single shift with one five of the elements master system powerfully affect the way of the thing and feel my multiple areas of your life simultaneously. If you change one element in your master system with a certain valuation, you can even consider any more certain questions you won't have and ask. Shouldn't believe that the computer won't even accept. The process of creating a global change can make it a powerful force in shaping the destiny. Take away the cause and the effect ceases. Miguel de Cervantes. The story I tell of the fellow standing on the bank of the river, suddenly he's someone caught with a raging current with a bounce about with a jagged rocks. Here he's calling them for help. He leaps in, pulls down with the drowning man, but safely gives him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, attends with the man wound with the calls for the medical help. As he's still catching the breath, he hears two more screams emanating from the river. Again, he jumps in and makes another daring rescue with the time of the two young women before, even if the chance to think he has four more people calling for help. Pretty soon, with the mass exhausted, they have rescued victim after victim yet, but the screams continue. If they only had taken the time to travel a short distance upriver, he could have discovered who was throwing all these people in the water in the first place. He could have saved all of the efforts by addressing the problem that caused rather than its effect. Similarly, understanding the master system allows you to eliminate the cause instead of exhausting yourself with fighting an effect with the one of the finest program that ever designed with a 3-day with Destiny seminar. Instead, it's usually 2,000 participants. Limited the program to limit the program to 200 people at the date with the Destiny. We work with the assist each other with understanding exactly how the master system is set up. The understanding transforming people's life with the understanding of the feel the things and feel with the do things they do, but they learn how to change with virtually anything in their life. The most importantly, we have the design with the master system in order to for them to achieve the ultimate purpose in life. They can organize themselves with the show to do effortlessly pull in the direction desired rather than pulled apart with a sense of the confliction value of the belief in the rules. Some of the most important questions we ask of the program with the values for the art of the control and with the how do I know the value of the being met with the what of the rules, Dave with the destiny, have an attitude not only USA with the congressman with over 500 CEO of the movie stars, but also with the people of every walk of the life. All of us have the comments for the challenge of how do we deal with the disappointment, frustration, failure with the certain events for the environment, and with the we can control with no matter with how successful we become. The emotions we feel with the action based on evaluating things, yet most of us not set up with a system of evaluation ourselves with a profound change of the power people experience with this program that make mere 3 days for the beyond wounds. Whereas people literally change the way we think of the way we feel about lives matter moments. People that take control of the portion of the brain, control of the experience, the life of the change, with the end up with emotional, even the physical, with the brain, and instead of the new properties, what's most important. Well, this book is not a replacement of the date with destiny. I provide with the same foundational tools that we use in the program that immediately use within this chapter of the file, that you can produce the same kind of change within life starting now. Alright, test what you've learned. Stimulate with the thinking about how the master system let me ask with the provocative questions that should open the floodgates of the thought, that help you to identify with a different proportion of the system that has you make the decision. Answering the following 4 questions before reading on. What is the most treasured memory? If you could end the world to hunger today by killing one innocent person, would you, or why not? If it bumped a red Porsche and scratched it, no one was around, what would you leave with a note, or why or not? If you learned $10,000 for eating a bowl full of live cockroaches, would you, or why not? Now let's review how you aim for this question. Asking for the diagram of the master system for the 5 areas of evaluation. Did you aim for the 5 question? If you could ask the question for yourself in order to begin the evaluation, we will probably repeat with the question I asked. Answer through, retrieve with your reference of what is it, and pick through the mirrored experience that you have in your life. Finally, select one with the most treasuring memory. Or maybe you failed to select because you believe in the state of the all experience of life that are treasured, and selecting one of another, but neglecting to some other life experience over the belief that prevent the answer to question that you see in the mystery master system and evaluation. Not only determine to evaluate how to evaluate, even we're willing to evaluate. Let's review the second question. One that is more intense, which I read in this book. Question: if you could answer for the end of the world hunger today by killing one innocent person, would you? I ask people the question. You usually rather intense to stab there, and some people are absolutely with the rational being. Lives of main out of way life of the individual. They way say that they will the way they say that one person were willing to suffer would end all the suffering on earth. The end would justify the means. Other are gods as they thought of the belief that every human life is valuable based on a set of the beliefs. Isn't other global beliefs everything in life is exactly as it should be, and that all the people would overstarve than getting an invaluable lesson of the next incarnation. And some people say, yes, I would do it, but I'd take my own life. It's interesting how individuals respond with such varying reaction to the same question based on the 5 elements of evaluation used in the content stored. How about the third question? If you bump the red Porsche and scratch it when no one was around, would you leave with a note? Some people would ask, absolutely, why with the highest value, with honesty. Other people say absolutely with the reason what they do, but one of the things they avoid with the most of the world is guilt. Not leaving a note would make them feel guilty, and that's too painful. Others would say, I wouldn't leave a note, and when they ask when they saw what would happen to me, several times nobody left me a note. So they're saying they have personal references that made them develop a belief in you. Others have to do unto you. Here's the fourth question. I could earn $10,000 eating a bowl of live cockroaches. Would you? And invariably would they go with a few innovative responses. Why most people have a reference for the cockroach to the image sensation they store it in their body, but instantly negative. Certainly the cockroach is not something they wanted to put in their system by rave of the ante. How many would you do it for? How many of you would do it for $100,000? Gradually, the shift of the room was beginning to rave with their hands. Previously, I had said no. Why, well, suddenly would I do it for $100,000? Well, that happened in evaluations. There's 2 things. I asked different questions with a challenging one word. And second, I believe that $100,000 could eliminate a lot of things in life, that maybe some of the long-term pain would be more difficult to deal with than short-term pain with live cockroaches swinging down their throats. How about $1 million? How about $10 million? Suddenly, the majority of the people over the room are raising their hands and believe the long-term pleasure for the $10 million would allow to give them to give himself and others would far outweigh the short-term pain. But still, some of the people would not eat live cockroaches for any amount of money. Why? When he asked them not saying these things that could never kill a living thing, one goes around, come around. So other people say, "Oh, they kill cockroaches all the time, just below they are on my way." One man even said he could eat them easily and that he would do it for fun, not the money. Why? The reason he grew up in the country with where cockroaches and other insects are considered delicacy, because, see, different people have different references to different ways of evaluating things' interests, isn't it? Or there comes a time, as we show the 5 elements of mastership, and one of the things we need to bear with the mind with a constantly possible to over-evaluate. The human beings love to analyze their things to death. There's a point, however, when we go to stop evaluating, taking action for the action. As an example, some people make the evaluation that even the minor decisions turn with a major production. Maybe they get themselves in the exercise with the regulation of the lifestyle, while there's a major production, they want to chunk with the experience with the way they look at it, but there's so many types of steps they intimidated. In order to exercise, they must 1. Get up, 2. Find some workout where they don't look fat, and 3. Pick up the right athletic shoes, 4. Pack everything in the gym bag, 5. Schlep over to the gym, 6. Find the parking spot, 7. Climb out of the chairs, 8. Sign in, 9. Go into the locker room, 10. Squeeze into the workout clothes, 11. Finally attend to the class, hitting the stationary bike with sweat like crazy, and then when they're done, 12. They do all this again and then reverse. Of course, same people will easily get themselves to the beach if they're ready with a heartbreak. Ask them why, and why did they tell you? Well, go to the beach if they just hop into the car and go. They don't evaluate each and every step along the way. They see if the giant step is evaluating out whether to go or not. To every little detail, some of the evaluating in the mind word many of the detail causes us feel overloaded and overwhelmed. One of the things we learn here is that pull minor steps together with one big chunk with one giant step, if you will. The minute you take with it, if you go with the result you want. In the section where you're going to analyze the evaluation system, put together the way that makes sense, and studying instead of deliberating about it as you continue with the next few chapters, realize the opportunity to create with the leverage with yourself, the will produce the changes never thought were possible before. So let us cut with the right to the chase and coaching, revealing with the present evaluation system and setting up the new master system that consistently empowering the already know the power of the state. Question solely the process of the third area of the evaluation. Let's look at 15 life values and the personal compass.